Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah, and in this episode, we sit down with Kim Andersen. Kim is a Danish magician who is absolutely incredible and creative. You may have seen one of his projects, Shrapnel, which blew up about a year ago around this time, and he has released countless other projects in the magic community. He's a performer, he's a creator, he's a thinker, and in this episode, he has a lot to say about, well, a lot about the Danish magic community, about creativity, about getting TV with magic, and about how you can create your own magic and where to do it. And you'll be surprised that he recommends making magic in the shower. What? Anyways, you'll like this episode as much as I did. Please enjoy a wonderful episode with the one and only Kim Andersen. Kim Andersen. Kim, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks, Jonah. Hi. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you. I'll be honest, I vaguely knew who you were with your release Shrapnel on Murphy's a little while ago. And then we had such a great time at Blackpool jamming and hanging out that you were honestly part of the reason why I was like, I got to start this podcast back up again. Like, basically half the world of people I haven't interviewed already. So, I took a nice break, but yeah, you're like literally part of the reason why I'm back is to chat with wonderful people like you. So thanks for doing that. We'll get back to Blackpool jamming stuff
We will.
in a bit. But let's sort of start at the beginning. How did you get started in magic?
Oh, yeah, well, the good question. I started when I was about 13 years old, and one of those things. I sucked at football and all that other sports stuff. I don't get sports. I still don't. And I started just getting books from the local libraries about magic. And at some point, my dad, he asked me if I wanted. He worked in like a gasoline company thing, starting up like gas stations around the country. So he asked me if I would go out and do some kids magic for some of the kids attending that thing. Like there'd be a couple of thousand people during the day, and I could just run around and do whatever. But he made the grave mistake of hiring a professional close-up magician as well, called Mikkel Gunnarsen. And so 5 minutes in, I saw that guy do an ambitious card, and I just threw my props away and followed him around for 3 hours. And that was amazing.
And how old were you at this time?
I've been around 13, I think. Pretty much at that point, 13, maybe 14. So, so I just got bit, and he told me about this magic shop in Horsens called Pagani, and spent all my money there for the next many years. I still do, actually. So that's how it started, I think.
So talk to me about sort of the next steps in the journey. So you fell in love with magic, you followed this magician around, and then what happened next? Like you started, to be honest, I am not quite familiar with the magic scene in Denmark. And obviously, people have different stories in magic. And depending on your geography, you're either really able to participate in the magic scene or really not able to participate. And some people's real big aha moment is shops. Some of them are conventions. Some of them are things like that. What was sort of the next few steps for you there?
I think a big mix of all of it. When I got talking to that magician, he of course hooked me up with the magic shop. And when I got to the magic shop, they told me about an initiative in my local town, my hometown, that basically it was the local magic club. They hated having young magicians running around because that was cramping their style, I think. So they made a junior magic club like once every second weeks, I think, with the two professional magicians, a kids magician and more of a like street magician. And I started going there. Like people would go to soccer or something else. And I came there and I just, we did everything. It was like kids props and big box illusions and everything, because they had gotten the money somehow to actually teach us everything from close up to stage, and it was really fun. Like, so a couple of hours every second week out, and it was fun.
What was that community like? Like, was there a lot of you? Was there only a few of you? How on earth did a magic club get the money to be able to make that happen? You don't know?
I don't know. I guess they must have I don't know how to say that in English, but they I don't know. They must have been able to gather money from some local something. I don't know, but they ended up getting the money for it and teaching us, and that was really fun. Like, and some of the kids, they were just there because they could have done whatever, and a few of us, we really loved magic. We got hooked on it. One of our teachers, he whenever there was a break, he would go out to the kitchen and drink coffee, and while the others would run around, I would sit next to him, and he would show me all the stuff he knew from like Bobo's and Royal Road, and I would just like breathe everything in. So I got like I had like extra time there where I learned like all the basic close-up stuff, and it was really cool for a young kid like me.
Paint me a picture a little bit more of the Danish magic community. I vaguely understand now that there was a shop. I know there was a magic club that had such a style that they didn't want the youngsters around. You had the youth magic club, which was meeting every other week, which is quite often, like to be meeting. What's the scene like, or what was the scene like for a magician growing up there?
Yeah, so we had clubs in like most of the major cities in Denmark. Like Denmark's a very very small country, mind you. But it's but we had like a few clubs around. So there were a lot of magicians running around, and a few like professional magicians running around. And of course, I was 13, 14, so I don't know all the details. But I think most of it stemmed from like the community wise, not just the small clubs themselves, but the community stemmed from the magic shop that I talked about, run by Steen. Did you meet him at Blackpool?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. One of my good friends from way back then. He's been really good at putting up events. Like, so like twice a year there would be this like a big event in Copenhagen where you could invite your family and lay people friends, and he would hire people like everyone from Mike Cavaney to I don't know, whatever. So he'd bring in people from all around the world that did great magic, so we could show this off to our friends. And then he would have all these seminars, lectures set up throughout the year, and he would also arrange for like people coming to Denmark and lecturing. He would also arrange for them to meet the right people in Sweden and in Norway, and so they could do like a bigger tour, or still small, but a couple more places around Scandinavia. So he would like pull all these strings and get people together several times a year. He would have a sale at the shop. He still does that, by the way. And most importantly, he would have a weekend just for teenagers. And I was at the first one, and we were a few, I don't know, I'm guessing like 30 magicians or something there, and some really great teachers. And during the next 19 years, it would be around 100 teenagers every year just showing up to learn magic for a whole weekend. And so that shop and Steen, that was really like the focus point of all of this. So I think we've been really lucky community-wise in Denmark, and remember this is pre-internet and everything. So it's been really good. It's been good to grow up in magic in Denmark.
Yeah, it sounds it. I think sometimes if there's a big community, you can get kind of shuffled and lost into it. And this seems like you guys were right in the sweet spot. Talk to me about the next steps from there. So, lots of kids are 15 years old doing magic tricks, and then they grow up, and they stop doing magic for this reason or that reason, or it stops becoming serious or passion or a bug or whatever it is. What were the next steps for you? Like, how did you think about magic as you were getting into your later teens? Was it something you knew you wanted to do? Was it like a hobby and then eventually you got the poke? Like, how were you thinking about magic?
Yeah, so I'm one of those. There might be a diagnosis for it, but I'm one of those people that has like 1,000 hobbies. I do magic, I play music, I draw stuff. There's so many things. So it would have been easy for me to just say, well, now I do horseback riding, or I do mountain climb, whatever. But I don't know. Magic just kept coming back to me, I think. whenever I had a deck of cards lying around or I found a coin in my pocket, there was always something to practice on, to get that French drop down or do something like that. So I don't know. And of course, I had periods in my life where I didn't want to do magic, and suddenly there were like relationships, and again started playing the guitar, then that took up all my focus. So I don't know, but magic just came. It just always came back to me. Like we joke about it at my house, my wife and I, that I never decided to be a magician. I just didn't decide on anything else. So it
by
was
default,
like,
magician by default.
yeah, by default. It was like, I've been to the university. I've done other stuff, but everything seemed so boring. It's just magic's just fun.
I would completely agree with what you just said of everything seeming so boring, compared to magic. One itch about magic that I really love is that I feel like every area of interest that I've ever had, I've been able to find that in magic. Everything from performing to logic to even stuff like musicality, like rhythm and like things like that, able to find inside of magic. And it just touches every single art form and every science, like every form of science it can touch. So I agree with you. I think there's sort of a level of richness to magic that other things do not come close to. But again, maybe this is just us preaching to the choir. We're just obsessed with magic, and but certainly that's the way that I feel. I'm especially interested in the chapter of higher education, because that's a chapter where, a lot of people either think they're going to be doing something else, or maybe in the back of their head, they're like, this is going to help me with magic, or maybe it's like, something to appease their parents or something like that. Talk to me about that portion of your life when I think you did an English degree or part of an English degree. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I wanted to get into film studies at the university because basically I wanted to direct movies at one point in my life. I still love movies. Like movies are my favorite art form next to magic, because I think there's, like you said, you have music, and you have like composition, and you have everything in this. Acting, of course, it was so exciting to me, but I never had the grades to go that direction, because everyone wanted to do film, so I couldn't get in, and I ended up studying English at the University in Aarhus, and that was really bad for me. Like waking up and looking at my schedule, and it said syntax and morphology. And I just went back to bed again sometimes, because it was horrible for me. I had some great friends there, and they loved it, of course, and they had the same passion for it that we have for magic, but it just didn't. Yeah, it didn't tickle me the right way. So I at some point I just had to look at it and go, nah, that's not for me. And I could spend the next many years here and build myself a bigger debt, and I would end up not doing it anyways, because it wasn't for me. So I don't know, and it's been the same thing with everything else, like with other jobs and stuff. It's just not been that exciting, because there's so much to dig into here in magic, and yeah.
So obviously, magic was, as we said, like something by default. It was sort of the thing when everything else failed. But at some point, when some of these directions were not the right one, you had to, put on your magic boots and go try magic, whatever that looked like, whether it was creating or performing or so what did that period look like when you said, okay, I guess it's magic? What actions did you take?
Yeah, so I don't know. I was one of those guys that no one told me that I shouldn't go out and perform before I was ready, which I think is actually a good thing to just go out and get started. So I started performing within the first couple of months that I, just for friends but I don't think I was half a year in before I started doing small kids parties and stuff like that. So I was out performing from the get-go pretty much. And then at some point, right around the university time, I ran into a stand-up comedian in Denmark. And he invited me to go on stage. Or he didn't invite me. He just put me on the list and said, "You're on tonight." So I needed to go on stage, and I went up there with my bad magic and my hack jokes, and I bombed completely. It was horrible. But when I went off stage, I felt something that I hadn't felt on stage before, and that was the need to actually improve and get better. So I think that's where it sort of like the thing turned for me, and suddenly I was on open mics like 3 to 4 times a week, sometimes several open mics a night, and got into that community and tried to figure out my own style of performance. I think at that point I knew this is the direction I want to go. So I did that for years. Like, yeah.
A couple of thoughts on that. So the first is, from what I've overheard, you guys have a pretty bustling comedy club scene in Denmark, and not a lot of places can really say that. Like, there's only a couple places in the States that have that kind of thing, maybe just the big cities. Same as in Canada, the major cities have stuff, and then some of the other ones don't really. Talk to me about that scene, and was it welcoming as a magician? Because, I'm sure it wasn't like magic theaters you were doing open mics at. It's probably mostly comedy clubs. Yeah.
It was comedy clubs. It was people drinking beer and comics being drunk on stage, like on a Monday. So it's like, like you've seen it, like it was a comedy club, but people were really nice. I think I was lucky at the time I got there. The guy in charge of the whole scene in Aarhus, where I grew up, is called Thomas Warberg. You wouldn't know him, but in Denmark, he's like a famous comedian. And at that point, he just decided to start something. So he started going out, getting connections at the different bars, and like selling the idea to them that this would be good for business. And then
as in, like, he brought comedy into a pre-existing bar, not that there was a comedy club.
Yeah, exactly. And years back, there had been like sort of a comedy environment, but nothing big, like in the early days of stand-up, as far as I understand. Of course, I wasn't there, so I might be wrong on this, but as far as I know. And then he started like, first one place, and then he had then it was Mondays and Tuesdays in different bars. And then suddenly we had like 5 days a week. And several of the bars had several nights a week. So you could fill these out with lots of comedians, and you could jump from bar to bar. And this is a small city, so you could easily go from one place to the other in like a few minutes. And these places would be packed. It was amazing, like really fun. But they were welcoming to a magician like me, because I brought something else, and I think I didn't steal the material. I didn't threaten them in many ways, and I think they could always just, if I had a good night, they could brush it off as well. He has prop side behind, so that's not real comedy or something like that. But it was good. It was really good. Some really really great people there, and some good friends.
Talk to me about was there any obviously, it sounds like the magic education came from the clubs and the shops and things like that. And then the performance education came from these open mic nights that you were appearing on. Was there any action on your part to step into the like business world, like to start booking gigs? Or was it just came of doing all these open mics and being the only magician?
I don't have a business gene. I'm like that's where I'm really lacking. If I should pick something I would like to work on in my life, it came from word of mouth. And later on, I sort of figured out how to. I mean, I took a couple of years at business school to like get at least some kind of idea of what I was doing, but most of it was word of mouth. People saw you at a comedy club, and suddenly there was a company party somewhere. And that was how it started.
Talk to me about where creating magic came into play. Were you on these open mic nights? A lot of the times when magicians do open mic nights, like you said, it's like the hack tricks and the hack lines and da-da-da. Is that where you started inventing stuff and really getting into your own space, or not really? That's where you scratched the performance itch and then you sort of started being creative later?
Both. I realized pretty early on that we had like one majorly famous magician in Denmark. We still have, Rune Klein, like everyone knows him. And he was on TV And Rune is one of the most creative people I know. He's like his brain is. I once went to his place, and he'd just been working on a thing, and he had this one plot. I don't remember the plot, but he had seven different effects surrounding this plot. Like some of them with cards, some with coins, some with an egg, some with like, and everything was based on this one thing. And he couldn't figure out which version to use. And so I have so much respect for that guy. But whenever he was on TV and did a show, if he used a prop, I'm not sure if he ever did that, but let's just say he pulled out the Rocky Raccoon spring for Animal. He would definitely do it in his own personal way. But as soon as he'd shown that thing on TV, it would be dead on a comedy stage because people knew, oh, that's the thing Rune does. So you would have to figure something out and to do something else, which was a really good thing, I think. And yeah, I know you talked to Morten recently, and he also talks about people going on stage and testing out that thing they just bought at the shop yesterday. And you know, lay people, you can get away with much, but two magicians doing I don't know, smart ass the same week, then you have a problem, right? So you need to figure out how to at least make the presentations your own, and I think that's where the open mics come in. So I would start out by developing my own presentations, figuring out how they suited my personality and my way of acting on stage. And then slowly I would switch out the props and maybe, you know, take the prop and say, okay, this is good, but throw it out and make it so it looked like my own thing I would have brought on stage instead of something I bought. So at least, you know, it wouldn't look like the other things.
I want to return to creativity in a bit. I want to talk first about the magician's dream, which is that you had your own magic TV show. You were on a TV show. Can you talk a little bit about first of all, how did it come about, and then what the actual process was like?
Yeah, that was a long run to get that going. I think it took like 5 years from they initially contacted me. And we filmed 3 different pilots for 3 different TV stations, and none of them went through. They even brought it to Cannes, the film festival, to like pitch it to different stations there, and no one bought it. So I had actually given up on it. And then one day, like 5 years after, they contacted me again and said, "Do you remember the thing we were doing? Blah blah blah." I said, "Yes." They said, "We have it now. We want to do it with you and another magician. So we want to do like a team act thing. And you might not know this guy, but we found this. He sent something into us, and then they show me the name of the guy, and that's my good friend Anders Lilleøre, who's a fantastic magician and a good friend. And I was like, sure, I'm in." So like unbeknownst to each other, they thought about using the both of us. So we got a TV show up and running, had some great guys helping us with the whole development stuff, because if you've ever done TV, you know that's where you break your neck immediately, because you don't have time. You need to write material at the same time that you're filming it and preparing for the next day, and so it's like a spiral. You can't get out of it. But it was it was fun. It was I think it took like 5 months shooting that, and So
I'd love to talk more about sort of the before, during, and after. So in terms of the before, was it your idea? Was it their idea? Like, how did this show come about?
That's the thing. That's where it gets a little bit touchy. But it's so Anders and we had some ideas on how to do this, but the thing is, they also had some ideas because they'd seen every show that was on the air at that time. So everything from Ben Hanlon's Tricked, I think it was called, and the Carbonara Effect. Everything like that was on the air, and they had David Blaine on their mind and everything. So we ended up, and I would never do that today, but we ended signing up for doing a 10-episode TV show where all of the episodes had 3 elements. So they would have like an ongoing, like a running thing with a celebrity. So you'd have like 3 elements, like 3 different magic tricks with a celebrity spread out through the like half-hour show. and you would have a street magic element of us approaching random people on the street, and you would have a Carbonaro-esque hidden camera show. So that was really, really exciting and really, really tough. I mean, if I should do that today, I would pick one.
Yeah, I was just gonna say pick one of those three, because they're like completely different.
But we're really proud of the product, and I think we ended up with a really, really good thing. But you know, you hindsight.
Yeah. Did you reach out to these producers, or they reached out to you in the first time? You know, I know later they said we got it and but how did it start?
They reached out to me, and at that time, and this is like what, 7, 8, 9 years ago or something, when they reached out the first time, and I had promised myself, that was before I had kids and you know, responsibility. I was living in the top apartment of an old theater, where I just stayed for free, and I helped out doing like small theater shows as the magician. So I didn't have any responsibilities at that point, but they reached out, and I had promised myself that whenever anyone asked me if I would do an interview, for like a magazine, even if it was like a very, very small thing for a school, or I would do a TV, like a filmed thing, could be an interview, whatever, even if they were film students, that it wouldn't get shown anywhere. But I promised myself I would say yes, because I would get the experience of standing in front of a camera, of talking to a sort of journalist or a beginning journalist, whatever. So I promised that I would say yes. And these guys call me from Copenhagen and say, so we have this idea for doing this, la, la, la. And immediately I think, because they don't explain it that well, so I think, okay, this is a school project. It's all the way in Copenhagen. So it's like 4.5 hours away from me. I don't have anything to do. It's fine. I'll just take a train. I'll go over there. And then I opened the door, and it was this huge television production company. So when I arrived, I didn't know anything about it. So I just said yes, because I thought they were like students trying to film something.
Incredible, you know, what happens when you say yes to opportunities. And I think people who are early on, I mean, I think at any point, but especially early on, that motto of just saying yes, 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 yes is probably the right answer. You know, there's not a lot you can mess up by saying yes to projects like that early on. Talk to me about the during, like the actual shooting. You said it was 5 or 6 months of I'm sure daily
with preparation, writing, filming, everything. Like not the post production. They did that after, of course. But yeah,
I'm sure it was like daily, just squeezing the lemon for everything you've ever come up with and everything you can think of. And like, talk to me about what that process was like.
That was tough. I mean, we got helped a lot by the fact we have we had 2 friends writing on it, and we had some great people. Like we had like the camera crew and the producers and everything. They were like really good. But we had two magicians working on it, called our friends called Mads Finker and Nikolai Christensen, and they just, you know, they saved us because it was really tough. I lived in Aarhus at the same time. We just had our second kid, so I was like traveling back and forth several days a week, and so it was really it was a tough period. But but it was it was really fun having to be like pushed to the limit, I think. And it was really fun working with guys. Like one of those guys is a mentalist and a really great magician, but he works as a mentalist. So his approach is a little bit different than mine would be. And they just have such great minds. So it's like really, I love the fact that I can say, so I need to do something like this. And they already have like 5 different ways of doing that I would have to spend a month trying to research and find out. That's a really fun part of the process, that you're not alone in it.
Yeah. And it is, it is as much as it's like grueling and painful to produce and be a part of one of these things. Like it is amazing that like, one thing I always joke about when it's a fit like this is like, this is what we've been training for our entire lives. Like 5 magicians in a room, figuring out a problem where they have only a couple hours to do it. And you come up with a solution and then you make it happen. Like this is what we've been training for, not the same trick I've done 8,000 times. The reason why I have all these books and that I watch all these Penguin Lives and that I'm filling my mind with this stuff is for moments like that. So it must have felt really fulfilling, like
definitely. Yeah, it was. And just some great guys working with. It was fun.
Talk to me about afterwards. So I have to say, I've dug around the internet. It was very hard to find. I did not find this anywhere. So I'd love to know, like, what was the aftermath of it? Were a lot of people, was your phone ringing off the hook? Was it like a small run and nobody cared and it was just felt good and nothing happened? How did it change
things? That's the thing. I mean, we're getting, I can't talk on Anna's behalf, but we were getting gigs and we were getting booked us together to do different events, some really big, like exciting ones as well. And I mean, anytime you get to perform should be exciting, but something that looks good on the resume. But it was no, it wasn't crazy. And I think the fact was that we did it for a television, like a channel that was like a sister channel to the big one, and it was behind a paywall. So how do you get about that? The fact that the shows, they aren't put, like you said, you had a hard time finding anything about it. I mean, I have them on a hard drive and that's it. But I know they rerun them all the time. I meet people like every week pretty much that say, "Oh, I just saw you on that show." And I was like, okay, I thought they stopped.
So that was 5 years ago or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's out there and it keeps going, but it's behind a paywall. So I don't know what to do about that. If anyone knows, please let me know.
Just steal it and re-upload it yourself. No, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, that would be like the only way to get it out. I mean, Anas has put up a few clips. I've put up a trailer and but I mean, it's old stuff. It's not relevant in that sense anymore. Love to do something else at some point, but right now I'm focusing on something else, and we'll see what happens.
Let's talk now a little bit about creativity. I mean, it sounds like from having opportunities in the Magic Club to open mic nights to this absolute test of all tests of a TV show, you've had a lot of not only opportunities to be creative, but moments where, it's really important that you're creative. It's really important that you make something new and different. And it's, that really shows in the magic that you've put out. I think that, first of all, I know you have stuff with cards and with coins and with objects, but I think part of what I see is not things that look 1 degree off of things that other people have made. I mean, you've really come up with some really unique ideas with cards. I mean, the stuff you were showing me with the back palm is unbelievable. Some of the stuff with like coins and magnets and safety pins and some of this stuff is really quite unique. Talk to me a little bit about how you think about creativity. Like, are you just fiddling around in your shop all the time until like something stumbles upon you? Like, how did these ideas come about for you?
Yeah, I think it's changed a lot over the years, but I figured out early on that I couldn't sit down with to like quote Morton pretty much. I don't work with a blank piece of paper. If I sit down looking at that, then my mind wanders and suddenly I've written a song instead. And you can't put that out to the magic community or show at your next party. But I think it helped a lot working at the magic, because the magic shop I mentioned earlier in Denmark, I travel around with them and do a lot of the conventions they go to as the Dem guy. And that's been really fun. And one of the best parts is that I always get some of the new stuff in my hands, even before it hits the shelves in the shop. And let's take Silver Edge, for example, the coin things you're talking about. I put that out like I don't know how many years ago now. I put out Silver Edge 1 and 2. And that started with me being at Rimini, FISM in Rimini, like many years ago, and like dealing magic. And my boss came over and he just found these super strong magnetic $50 made by a cool guy from Japan. And I saw him do stuff with it. And I was like, can I borrow those tonight? And then I walked around with them, and to me it was like a fidget spinner or something that clicked in my hands like a pen or something. I just played around with it, and suddenly I came up with these weird moves and just fun stuff. So I started carrying those around in my pocket every single day. Like I had them in my pocket, I think 4 years straight. Same set of coins, and just kept developing and coming up with new stuff. And it was suddenly you had like, I don't know, like 10, 15 different routines with it, fun moves, slides that were original. It was fun. So that's one of the things with creativity. I think that, as I said, I don't sit down at a table with a piece of paper. That won't work. I actually never sit down at a table. That never works for me. If I need to work on something, I have it on my body when I walk around. I've talked about this before on another podcast, but I think the best when I'm in the shower. And I've come up with a lot of fun coin stuff in the shower, and that sounds weird.
You bring your coins into the shower?
Yeah, I bring my coins into the shower sometimes.
Awesome.
If you can, yeah, but it's like if you can, it is limiting. There is some palms.
No pockets.
Can't do it, like.
You can't put the magnet in your back pocket if you're.
You can't. But you can skin clip them, and that sounds weird. But I'm showing you my wrist right now. I'm not sure what people are thinking, but you can like clip them to like your wrist. You can.
And that maybe is that where you came up with that in the shower with no pocket?
That was actually while I was in the shower. I was trying something out there.
Wow.
On my wrist, people. That's important. But but not even the magnetic coins. Just regular coins. Just like bring a like if you do use Morgan dollars, bring a Morgan coin next time you're in the shower and try see how you actually handle coins under these weird situations like these like suddenly your hands are wet. What palms can you do? And I know you won't have to perform in a rainstorm anywhere, but
I was gonna say that's how Miguel Munoz came up with his routine. No, not really.
No, probably. I'm guessing that would have been fun though. Just standing there 6 hours straight every day. I love that routine. But that's one of the most beautiful things. No, but like trying out doing French drops in the shower. See how the coin lands in your hand. What you can do with it. It's fun. Card tricks not so much, but. Yeah, you might guess that.
Plastic cards, maybe, I don't know.
Exactly, that would be a way to go. No, but just for me, I walk around with it. If I'm practicing card moves, I have a deck of cards on me, like most of people listening here might, and coins on me. Then the shrapnel, the safety pin thing, I would carry safety pins on me every single day and just work on this thing. If I was sitting on a bus. People would look like weird at me because I was sitting doing like really weird moves with a safety pin up at eye level. And it's just, carry it on you, try it out.
I mean, I love, that's an amazing piece of advice. And sort of after you said that, I think about all the routines of yours and they're all with objects that you can actually fit in your pocket, like, which makes sense. If you reverse engineer that, you come up with most of the stuff in the shower or walking around or whatever. It's stuff that you can keep on you. There's two other things I want to say about this. The first is, for me, about 2 years ago, maybe a little bit less, I started carrying around a shoulder bag, a fanny pack. And that was like one of the biggest creative unlocks for me ever. I mean, I have tricks now with the actual bag itself, but the fact that I can put a bunch of stuff in it and have things to play with all the time, that's how I actually got good at a bill change. That's how I got good at, using some threads. That's how I got good at carrying around these items and things like that. So that certainly is a huge unlock. I mean, if you don't want to have a fanny pack, don't, but maybe don't just put the deck of cards in your pocket. Put whatever those other objects are that you want to play with, not because you already know the trick that you're going to do with it, but because the object is fun and interesting for you. And if you're going to fiddle anyways with something, like, might as well fiddle with an interesting prop, something that tickles you.
Yeah, and I really like what you're bringing up, because you showed me your fanny pack at Blackpool, and I don't know if we can talk about it. It's in your lecture notes, of course, but it's but the secret thing you've done with that, I love that, and cut it out if I couldn't mention that, but I just love looking at a thing that's natural to you. Be it clothes or mannerisms or whatever, and adapting that into your performance style. Like, let's say I have normally I wear a cap when I walk around, and I wear that in most situations. And I have a thread hookup in my cap. I have something with magnets in my cap, because I know I'll be wearing my cap 90% of the time. So
Wow.
why not use it for magic? I have in all of my pants, I have a butt tuppet.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I talk about that in my Penguin Live thing, but it's because I've found out a way to use that in, like, not all of my routines, but in a lot of the stuff I do, because it fits my body language and my way to use my arms, the rhythm. Figure out what's like. Figure out if
Yeah, I mean, that sticks out to me, the idea of carrying things around with you, that idea of bringing things around with you that you can play with, and almost, I'm almost seeing the light of a lot of the creations that you have as being like already unique objects, like the magnetic coins or like the squeakers or like stuff like that, already unique objects that you could just put on you and mess with until at some point you end up with something that maybe didn't exist before, versus you going like, I have to come up with this, or I need to figure out a way to do this or that. You're just playing and playing and playing until something comes out. And that's the second idea that's really come out from what you just said, is play. Some people, they take creativity very seriously, as crazy as that sounds, but they take creativity very seriously. I talk about this a lot, is like, a lot of the best creations that I have, they've come from some sort of limitation, a deadline, a limitation. We have to solve this problem. We're going to be on TV in 2 weeks. We have to figure out how to do this, like things like that. But then the other couple really come from not having a problem to solve, but playing with objects and playing with these certain things and seeing what comes out of it. And I think as an impetus for people who want to be creative, take the object that is interesting to you or has a function. A lot of people say like method first is maybe not a great way to go for magic, but this is kind of like a middle ground. It's not method first. It's like, this is a unique object. It maybe does a little bit of a unique thing. I don't know what it is yet. I haven't unlocked or unpacked it yet, but man, it feels good in my hands. Man, it feels good to play with. I love that. I think that's really awesome. If somebody wanted to start, I don't know, I don't want to say be creative, because it's like such this big, crazy concept, but I think a lot of magicians feel trapped in the magic that already exists. And when you take a trick that already exists, you're like, what do I do with it? Maybe you feel like you're going to make it worse or something like that. What kind of advice do you have for somebody who maybe feels trapped in these tricks and routines and wants to make something new? Do you have any advice for those people?
I don't know if I have an advice, because I think you have to look. Oh, this is going to sound, maybe it'll sound deep, or maybe it'll just sound stupid, but I think you have to look inward and say, why do you want to make something with it? Like, if it's to put it out on the market or something, I don't think that helps creativity in any way, because that just puts like a pressure on you. Like, I'll have to pull it back to the whole thing with figure out who you are as a performer. Like, what would fit you? Why do you need to change this? Is it because you think you can make the routine better? If the routine's good, then why not just go with that? Is it because you've I don't know. I don't think I have anything exciting to say about that, actually, but it's just, I think creativity is so different from person to person. Like, I have friends that are great artists, and both music wise, but also like they paint and draw. And one of my friends, he can just sit down with a piece of paper and he can imagine exactly how this image will look, and then he'll put pen to paper and bam, it's there. That's not how my mind works. When I finally sit down with a piece of, I know I used the paper analogy before, but when I sit down with a piece of paper and a pen, I might have an overall idea, but I can't see the picture in my head. I have to put the pen to the paper and I have to start doodling around, and then suddenly I'll see a shape that I'll go with, and then I'll move on and sort of shape it and like trial and error thing instead. So I think creativity is, as far as I see it, is very different from person to person, how your mind works. I don't know anything about how the mind works, but at least that's what I get the feeling of when I look at people. So I think just if it's not working, try something new. I think go to the shower. Like I gave myself a new like a new challenge this week, that every day I'm going to find something not magic related. Because I know if I play enough around with a gimmick, a thumb tip, a something, at some point I will come up with something that at least I think is funny. It might not be useful for anyone else, but I think that would be funny. But I've given myself a challenge that I should pick something every day, and there isn't an end goal. I'm not supposed to have a finished product at any point in time. But if I can come up with just anything from that, like today, it was a piece of cheese because I was making food and I cut a piece of cheese and I saw the holes and I thought, that would be fun if you could do a matrix with cheese holes.
That is a good idea.
Yeah, or just move one hole from one place to the other or something like that, or restore the hole. And then the mind started going, and suddenly I was working on something completely different, and I ended up.
And your kid's just sitting at the table with the plate going, "Where's my sandwich?" Where's when you're doing cheese matrices?
Exactly. Yeah. Luckily, I was on my own. They were in kindergarten, and school. But the point being here is I never came up with an idea of doing a cheese hole matrix, but I ended up working on the Indian bean mystery that I used to perform many years ago, and I actually ended up shaving stuff off and making it like a more whole routine that fit my personality and my way of performing. So now I actually have a thing that I'm looking forward to go out and perform. I haven't performed it for like 8 years maybe. But because I started with the cheese, I somehow ended up with an Indian bean mystery that I can use now. Just because I let my mind start going. And it's the whole yes and mentality from improv comedy that no idea is stupid as long as you go with it, because it might get you to someplace else. So I think that might be a good suggestion for people struggling to be creative. Just set a goal that's not give yourself a challenge that doesn't have an end goal. So you're not locking yourself in. You're not trying to do a complete torn and restored card that you can do in slow motion, like on camera, but you're just ripping a card in half and see what can I do with these two pieces. It doesn't have to be a restored card. It could be something completely different, if it makes sense. Sorry, I'm rambling now. But
no, it's perfect. It makes me. It just makes me want to return to this idea of play. Play. And as just a way to unlock these next steps, these next pieces, if you want to be inventive, creative, is to just play with these props and bring them in the shower. That's definitely
exactly
a juicy
as long
one.
as they're not electronic or paper. That's
yes, that is important. No electronics, no paper.
Very important.
We are getting near the end of the episode, and as you know, because I know you listen to the podcast, which is wonderful and fun and wicked. As
in the shower.
Hopefully not. Hopefully no electronics. I used to have a shower head that had a speaker in it. So you would connect via Bluetooth and the water would fall on you, and so would but I never listened to a podcast in there. My housemate did at the time, but I always felt it's so weird to listen to a podcast in the shower. It's like so personal. Someone's talking to you. So I always listen to music because I always feel like someone's talking to you from the water spout is too much.
I need one of those.
Yeah. They're definitely a lot of fun. So as we get to the end of the episode, there are some wrap-up questions that we ask each of the guests. So the first of which is the endless chain. So in order to keep the podcast going on for eternity, each guest is asked to recommend another guest that would be a great fit for the podcast, there are two catches. The first catch is that we must have not had interviewed them already. And the second catch is that you have to technically be able to put us in contact. Otherwise, you could just say anyone. So who do you think would be a really, really good fit for this podcast and a conversation like
Can
this?
I come with two suggestions?
Yeah.
Because I think you might have talked to the other one already. I'm not sure. I'd like to suggest a Danish magician / mentalist / illusion builder called Jan Hellesø. Good luck with that name, by the way, when you Google it. Jan is he's a good friend, and he's very exciting for several reasons. One is that he's been working closely with Rune Klan for many years and building his stuff. He's built for theater and for big magicians like all over the world, like huge illusions. He's like he has a good mind doing that. But he's also the biggest mentalist in Denmark with heaps of TV shows behind him. And he's a very creative and very interesting guy to talk to. He's really, really good. And I can hook you up with him if you're interested. The second one being Tobias Dostal.
Beat you by 3 days. Already did it 3 days ago. So
seriously?
It hasn't. Yeah. So as of us recording this, it hasn't been released, but we recorded it literally actually 2 days ago. We recorded the episode.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I'm looking forward to that. He's like just going along with the whole creativity thing. He's a guy, if I ever get just close to where he is creative wise, I would be happy because, oh my God, he's amazing. Looking forward to that. By the way.
And you know what? Again, I do have you to thank for, saying, hey, Jonah, come see this, let him show you all this stuff at Blackpool. And then we did. And then we got to talking. And that was the first episode that I recorded back. So thank you for helping.
That was actually why I pulled you over there, because I was hoping that you'd get him on because I want to hear his thoughts on stuff when there's no other people around.
It's so amazing to be like, hey, can you guys be friends so you can do an episode with him so that I can hear it? That's amazing. The next question for the wrap-up question is about modern magic. So what's one thing that you like about the world of modern magic, about the world of magic right now, and one thing that you don't like?
That's I'm going to sound like an old grumpy man. Let's take the negative one first. That's the whole piracy issue thing. Like as a guy who puts out stuff, I feel like people should respect creators a bit more. I know a lot of people out there do, and really like there's like a whole honor system in that you pay for stuff that you do. But I'm running into so many people these days at conventions that have met people who buy stuff from them, and then they say, "Oh, I'm not going to get that because my friend has that already. I'm just going to watch the video." So I think that people forget that creating magic will only continue if people actually get credited firstly and also paid for what they do, because many of the big I also perform, so I have a second income, of course, but many people out there, they live solely from putting out products in the world. And it's no secret that whenever you put stuff out, it gets sold on the black magic market like hours after it's out there. So just think, for people to remember that all the creators out there, they're doing you a big solid for actually putting the stuff out. But if they don't get paid for it, then at some point they won't put anything out, because it's not viable for them. So that's the grumpy old man in me saying.
No, but
that.
It's true, and there's
important.
human beings on the other side of these creations, and I think as maybe this is something that costs even more money, but I think just to talk for a second about Blackpool or conventions, which is like such an important theme and through line in a lot of magicians' magic. I think being at conventions and being at a dealer's booth with the person who created a trick, or you know, like jamming with someone who created a trick, like, you know, it gives you a little bit more of a realization that it's a human being on the other side of this that made this and put this out, and for you to be like, oh, nice, you know, shake their hand and then go run and torrent, you know, their video or something is you know, maybe it gives you a new version or a new appreciation for that. These are real people that are.
People should remember that. I mean, but me being grumpy. Good things. I really appreciate the internet. Like, all in all, I think that might have been one of the best things, and worst to some people, of course. But I think it might have been one of the best things for the whole. We talked magic community before. Like, we can meet up with people that we otherwise wouldn't have talked to in a million years. Like, every single time there's a convention, I meet someone that we run to each other and we hug, and we've never met in person before. We've just talked online for the past like 4 years. And that's amazing. I think it must be amazing to be a young kid growing up right now and wanting to learn magic. And they don't have to travel 6 hours to get to their nearest magic club. And maybe if they're lucky, someone will show them a double lift. But the fact that you can actually go out and learn magic, like, you can buy magic, but you can also find like more open source magic that's been out there for like 100 years. I think that is really good. And I know it's a bit. What's it called? Like, I just said one thing about but I think it is important, and I think it helps magic in so many ways as well. That people can reach out and get in touch with, like, people who burn for this art.
That's the best part about it for me, is that, you know, everybody is an actual email away, you know, like, quite literally everybody is a Facebook message or an Instagram message or whatever away from being able to connect and, you know, jam and share, and, you know, even to just pass on your thanks to somebody who's created stuff. Like, it's easier than ever to do that, you know?
Yeah. And where else do you get that? I mean, if you want to be a professional soccer player, like, you don't just, I don't know any professional soccer players, but you don't just tap random name and then get in contact with them. That's not how it works, right? I mean, we're in a community where a lot of, like, the top pros, they want to help. If I write someone, there's a big chance that they will get back to me.
They answer their messages, you know, like, they really do. Like, almost everybody is there to help and there to be a part of it. So I
as long as you're polite and respect their privacy and stuff like that. But
of course.
I mean,
hey, I torrented your video online, and I just had some questions about how you do this handling.
But I'm missing the last 10 minutes. Could you send it to
The second last thing is the take home point. So people have been listening to us talk about magic for a while now. We've talked about everything from television to magic shops to growing up in magic to taking it seriously as a career to creativity. If people are going to think back to this and remember one thing to be the most valuable for them, or one thing that'll just stick with them the most, what do you hope that thing will be?
Play. Have fun and play. I think, at least creativity wise. I actually think that is a good point. Like, we at least I do tend to get, like, stuck up on, you have to, like, follow these rules, and you have to, like, if you have to create something, then it's the blank piece of paper. You have to sit down, just do something, like, to try the thing I've just started, and it's definitely not an original idea. I'm sure a million other people do this, but just set yourself a challenge, and don't put an end goal in mind. Just look at something in a different way.
I love that, and to me, the best version of play is bring it into the shower with you. I mean, that's just a wonderfully hilarious, but also practical tip. Like, it's funny, but also I have had my best ideas in the shower. I have had I do practice scripts and routines and bits and ideas like that in the shower, you know, like, so as silly as it is, it's also an incredibly practical piece of advice, is bring it into the shower with you and play there. I'm not saying play in the shower. That's something different, but okay. The last thing is,
glad you like it.
plugs. Where can people find you? Where can people find your magic?
I mean, you can find me on Instagram. That's the best place to reach out to me, and that is Kim Andersen. I'm not sure. Can you put it in the show notes as well?
Yeah, everything will be in the show notes. People will be able to find the Instagram in there.
It's Kim Andersen, and instead of an S, it's the number 5 because someone else apparently has my very generic name, and it's an E and an N, not an O and an N like the American version. But Kim Andersen 5N.
Got it. So and you have magic on quite a few of the magic sites. Like
I've been lucky. I have, yes, you can get Silver Edge 1 and 2 over at Illusionist, and you can get my Penguin Live lecture. That's like the most recent one over at Penguin. And then I have Shrapnel like at pretty much every magic store around. I hope so still. Unless they're sold out, then that's good as well. But that stuff I'm really proud of. I also I showed you the magic beep routine, like the squeaker Monty thing. It's more like an under the radar thing, but you can get that at pagani.com if you're interested in that. So yeah, but there's stuff coming out, so it's fun.
Well, there you have it. I hope you liked the episode, and I hope, of course, that you learned something. It would mean the world to me if you would share this with one person who you think would enjoy it. Listen, you're as connected to the magic community as I am, but all the people I know are already listening to this, or maybe they're not. I don't know. But the people that you know may not have even heard of this podcast, so it would mean the world if you told one person, or take a screenshot and share this on your Facebook, Instagram, or heck, Tinder story. I don't care, as long as you spread the word. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next Thursday. Peace.